There's a lot of hype around Bryan Johnson's extreme anti-aging diet, but is it really the miracle it's made out to be, or is it just the latest internet sensation? Earlier this year, I committed 75 days to the diet, and while that experience taught me a lot, I've come to the realization that it's just not for me. In this video, we're going to dive into two things. First, we're going to look at why I stopped doing Bryan Johnson's diet, and then we're going to look at how I took the things that I liked and implemented them into my new diet. There are three main reasons why I'm moving away from the Blueprint diet. The first is there's a mismatch between my goals and Bryan's goals. Bryan clearly outlines on his website that the core objective of Project Blueprint is to maximally slow the speed of biological aging. After a few months of following the Blueprint protocol, it dawned on me I don't necessarily want that for myself. I'm not really interested in being perpetually 23, and I'm not even sure if that's possible. With the Blueprint protocol, the goal is to slow or even halt aging altogether. With Project Andrew, my goal is to prolong life while enriching it through meaningful experiences. This drive to completely halt biological aging has pushed Bryan to some pretty extreme protocols. For me, the strictness that came with Blueprint had some side effects. For instance, strict adherence to the sleep protocol meant missing out on a lot of social interaction. Also, before Blueprint, a lot of my social interaction revolved around enjoying meals with friends. The majority of the restaurants that I went out to with friends while on Blueprint didn't have food that met the Blueprint criteria, so that meant that going out was always an exercise in self-discipline, and that got pretty tough. On his website, Bryan claims that he's using over 200 science-based protocols to help slow his speed of aging. One of the key tactics is caloric restriction. He consumes roughly 10% fewer calories than his daily requirement. While there is research showing that caloric restriction plays a role in longevity, there's also a lot of research showing that physical fitness and strength play a big role in longevity as well. Being over 20 years younger than Bryan, I think it makes sense for me to have different goals physically than he does. For instance, I'm currently trying to build muscle mass and increase my VO2 max. Now, achieving these goals in a caloric deficit would be almost impossible unless you decide to take exogenous molecules like testosterone, and this is what Bryan does. That's not something that I want to do, so in order to achieve those goals, I need to increase my caloric input. These differences in objectives are part of what made me decide to get off the Blueprint diet. If you're thinking about giving Blueprint a try, I think it's worth assessing what you want out of it. If your objectives are quite a bit different than Bryan's, it might be worth considering something else. The next reason I decided Blueprint's not for me is I don't think it's very sustainable in the long run. I think sustainability is the most important part of any longevity protocol. What good is a longevity protocol if it's too difficult to maintain over the long run? Here are the 4 areas that challenge the sustainability of the Blueprint diet for most people. The first is cost. Now, if you're careful and you shop around, it's really not too bad. But it's worth noting that Blueprint leans heavily on organic produce, expensive olive oil, and expensive supplements. None of these are easy on the wallet. The second reason it's not very sustainable is the time commitment. Bryan has the luxury of having a dedicated meal prepper.
Jamie comes by every day, and this is tomorrow's food.
If you're like me and prepping everything yourself, then it takes a lot of time to shop and then chop and then cook everything up and put it in the prep containers. I mean, it's just time consuming. The third reason I don't think I would want to sustain Blueprint over the long run is the taste. Let's be honest, the flavor profile you get with Blueprint is an acquired taste. It's tolerable, but I don't think the food needs to be this hardcore to be healthy. The final reason I don't think this is very sustainable is travel compatibility. Simply put, the diet doesn't travel well. I got the opportunity to travel all the way across the country while on the Blueprint diet, and yeah, frozen super veggie isn't great. The third major reason that I'm moving away from the Blueprint diet is that there's not a lot of evidence out there that it's really the best solution. As I've found out since starting this channel, the internet is full of people debating what the best diet is. You've got people that are vegan, you got people into keto, you got people that are doing this animal-based diet now, then straight up carnivores. Whenever someone proclaims their diet as being the ultimate diet, my skepticism kicks in. The problem is it's really difficult to do good studies about what diet is best.
But if you are a human who's going to be making decisions about diet, health, exercise, if you want any consensus, you're doomed.
For those of you that are arguing about nutrition on Twitter, like it might actually be life wasted.
This probably means that we'll never have conclusive data on which diet is the best diet. When thinking about diet, it's important to ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve with this diet? If you just want to live a really long time, the Blueprint diet with all the supplements could be your ticket. But what if you're training for a marathon? If you're expending that kind of energy, you probably need more than 2,200 calories a day. So what's the bottom line? Concrete evidence on the superiority of Bryan Johnson's diet is pretty much non-existent, other than the data that he's published from his own experience. Okay, that's enough on why I'm quitting the diet. Let's dive into how I'm applying what I learned and what I liked from Blueprint to my new diet. Before we continue, I just want to say I'm not recommending my new diet to anyone. If you have similar goals to mine and you want to try what I'm doing, cool. I'll be collecting data over the next 100 days and publishing that for you guys, and we'll let the data speak for itself. To be clear though, I'm not saying this is a superior diet, this is just what I'm doing. Here's a quick review of the goals that this diet is tailored to. Goal 1, gaining muscle mass. Over the next 100 days, I'm trying to build 8 to 10 pounds of lean muscle mass. Now, as several people have pointed out to me, this is pretty ambitious. I might not achieve that goal, but I'm going all in. The second goal is to boost my VO2 max. I'm trying to increase it by 20%. A recent test at a sports lab had my VO2 max at 34.4, so I'm shooting for at least 41.3 at my next lab test. Goal 3, increase my testosterone. While on Bryan Johnson's regimen, my testosterone decreased significantly. I'm now trying to get my testosterone back up to a minimum of 700 nanograms per deciliter. Now that I'm upping my caloric intake, I'm hoping that my testosterone levels will get there naturally. I also hope to maintain my other optimal biomarkers during the next 100 days. So meal 1 in my new diet is this protein shake that includes a lot of nuts. Now, if you're familiar with Bryan Johnson's diet, this is basically a combination of the Green Giant and Nutty Pudding. One of the key ingredients I left out is chlorella powder. Bryan puts 2 tablespoons of this in his morning green drink because it has something called spermidine in it. Spermidine essentially induces autophagy. Autophagy is a state that your body can begin to enter after about 18 hours of fasting, and it's where your body basically recycles damaged cells. On my current diet, I'm not intermittent fasting, therefore there's not much of a chance that I would get into autophagy, so I cut out the chlorella powder. Also, chlorella powder doesn't taste good, so not that sad to see it go. Here's how I make the smoothie. It starts with 16 grams of macadamia nuts, 20 grams of walnuts, a cup of organic strawberries, 10 grams of flaxseed, 18 grams of collagen peptides, 5 grams of cacao flavanols, half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, a teaspoon of sunflower lecithin, and 2 Brazil nuts. That's the base of the smoothie. Then I add about 5 grams of creatine monohydrate and 1 scoop of whey protein. For meal 2, I have this black lentil chili. Here's what goes in it. About 100 grams of chopped onion, about 200 grams of chopped tomatoes, 1 clove of garlic, half a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, 2 Anaheim peppers, 300 grams of black lentils cooked, 1 tablespoon of chili powder, and the juice of 1 lime. I start by taking the onion, tomato, and peppers, lightly tossing them in that olive oil. Then I'll throw that in the oven with the garlic. Once all that has roasted, I put it in my food processor with the lime and the chili powder, and the food processor turns it into this. I then combine this with the 300 grams of black lentils. So that's the base chili recipe. From there, I add approximately 100 grams of roasted chicken to the top, half an avocado, and some fresh cilantro. These 2 meals make up the base of my diet. For meal 3, I've been experimenting and trying new things. I have 3 really simple rules for this meal that give me a bit more flexibility and allow me to eat out if I want. Rule 1, stick to whole foods. Rule 2, eat at least 2 servings of veggies. Rule 3 is do your best to count the calories and stay in your target range. At the moment, my target is roughly 2,600 calories a day. In that 2,600 calories, I'm shooting for at least 160 grams of protein. This week, I've been enjoying this beet salad with roasted chicken. Last week, I had a broccoli celery soup with cashew cream and chicken. If I need the calories, I'll usually include a snack of some nuts and maybe a banana, or a banana with some peanut butter. And that's pretty much it. I hope this was helpful to you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.